Hi everyone and welcome to our podcast tutorial. So we're going to go into Soundtrap and click on Studio, and then we're going to choose the podcast project. So the first thing we're going to do is create some intro music for our podcast. Podcasts are always a little bit more interesting when there's an introduction, and I'm going to click on the loop tool that's right over here, this pair of eighth notes. If we click on that, we have access to a library of pre-recorded audio loops, so things that were recorded with microphones, and anything that has these pair of eighth notes is going to be a MIDI file. So that this was programmed by a computer, for example, and not an electric piano through a microphone, for example, or another interface. So you can use either the audio or MIDI, whatever you like, and find some things that you like to add to your project. So I'm going to start with a drum beat here, and you can audition them just by clicking on the arrows. So you can find a drum groove or another loop that you like. Let's see. Spend a lot of time doing this. And then when you find one that you like, you can double click on it and it will add it to your project. Or you can click on it and drag it into your project like GarageBand. Now you can listen to your project using the playback controls at the bottom of the screen here. So I'm rewinding and hitting play, stop, again, rewind, play, stop. And then you can also click on the loop itself to make it shorter or longer. We're going to just start with an 8-measure loop here to work with, and then we can always make it longer or shorter if we like. So I have a drum beat that I like, and I'm going to find a keyboard loop to go on top of this that I like. So I'm going to click on this loop library. Again, that is the pair of eighth notes in the top right corner of the screen. I'm going to reset this and click on piano. You'll find some of the loops work well together, some of them may not. Usually at the top, it'll give you some ideas for what Soundtrap believes will work best for your project given the loops you've already started to work with. So they've recommended some top picks. So generally the things that Soundtrap picks should work hopefully pretty well. So now we've got drums and keyboard. And if something is too loud, you can adjust that right here. These are the volume controls. You can also solo a track by clicking the headphones or mute it with the mute button. And those are most of the controls that you'll need to work with initially. So now that we have some of our intro music, I'm going to go ahead and add a new track. So I'm clicking add new track, and I'm going to record a vocal introduction. So I'm going to click voice and microphones. You might want to double check the microphone settings in Soundtrap if you have more than one option. So this option would switch to my computer microphone, my built-in one, but I'm going to go with the Yeti USB microphone that I have plugged in. It sounds a little bit better. So when I click start recording, I'll probably, or I should hear the drums and keyboard that I added, and then I can go ahead and record my introduction over top of that. Hello everyone, welcome to the Teaching Music Online with Digital Audio Workstations podcast. My name is Matt Claus and I am your host. So we could start with something like that. If you wanted to go a little bit further into detail about what the podcast is about or start to do your first episode, you're more than welcome to do that. Now you can see right here, this is the audio that I recorded. If I solo it, we could hear just that part. Hello everyone, welcome to the Teaching Music Online with Digital Audio Workstations podcast. My name is Matt Claus and I am your host. So I can actually hear that Soundtrap has already added some effects to make this sound a little bit more podcasty. So there's a compressor and some EQ that's already built in. So that's one of the nice things about using the presets on Soundtrap is it does some of the EQing and effects for you. There's usually not a lot of reverb in a podcast episode, so that is turned all the way down. You can see the panning right here is right in the center. That's obviously what makes most sense for a podcast. So let's go ahead and listen to everything together and see how the balance is. So is anything too loud? Because we might have to adjust some of the volumes of the tracks. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Teaching Music Online with Digital Audio Workstations podcast. My name is Matt Claus, and I am your host. So if we wanted it to end right there, we could have the loops end, and it sounds like there's a nice little bit of reverb and they ring out a little bit. We could also make the loops, the drums and the keyboards, quieter when I come in. So I'm going to add automation. That's this button right here, automation. And when my voice comes in, I'm just going to make them a little bit softer. So I'm clicking 2 dots and then I'm going to drag this down, and that's going to bring down the volume of the keyboard as well as the drums. So I can see, yeah, it's right. It looks like I came in at about the second measure. So I'm going to go ahead, and you could also change this to the time to get a little bit more accurate. But now I've got my drums and my keyboard are going to come down a little bit when the voice enters. So yep, you can see the automation. We call that automation for volume. So if you were looking at a mixing board, you would actually see if they had automated faders, you would see those slide down as if someone were controlling them in real time. So let's go ahead and listen to hear how that sounds. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Teaching Music Online with Digital Audio Workstations podcast. My name is Matt Claus, and I am your host. And you can hear me clicking either the mouse or the keyboard to stop my recording. So I'm just going to go ahead and using the bottom right corner of the screen, I'm just going to clip that out. So now we shouldn't hear that anymore. And I am your host. Yep, you hear a little bit of my mouth at the end there. And if eventually we'll get into a finer degree of editing that we would remove some of that as well. Can probably eliminate some of it just by cutting that region. Well, that's it for the tutorial for creating a podcast. So think of a topic that you might like to present, and you will be doing an interview later this week. So you might think about what might be a great podcast topic to do an interview with someone. But that's it for now.